Nobody has a perfect marriage. No one has, because we're all imperfect. But parenthood has its struggles, and the thing about children is they do not come with an instruction manual, a how-to, or but it has its struggles that we have to figure out on our own. And many times, and what I want to do is I just want to lay the groundwork. This is not many ladies when they look at Proverbs 31, they feel condemned because they see where they're lacking. This is not what I want this message to be. I want it to be inspiring. It's something to aspire to. It's not a yardstick that you measure yourself by. And but in our introduction, we just want to say that there's a lot of good, wholesome Christian values that we, as the entire body of Christ, aspire to and reach for. That you mothers make it look easy. You mothers make it look easy. And we all need a lot of that nurturing, a lot of those words of wisdom. And there's fingerprints and marks upon us that mothers actually leave in us that last a lifetime. So as we do our introduction, don't be condemned, but let it inspire. You know, as we look at, has all of y'all seen the Ben Carson movie, Gifted Hands? If you haven't seen that movie, I would encourage it. Ben Carson, you know, he is the #1 neurosurgeon in the world. But he come out of a home where his mother had to be the mother and the father. And she had lots and lots of challenges. And it's a very inspiring message to see the success of Ben Carson. You know, he ran for president a while back. And his nature and his mannerism, but how he turned out in that single parent home where the mother had to be both the mother and the father. And unfortunately in our society today, that is in many times the case. You know, I grew up in such a home, you know, and I'm ashamed to say it, but there was a lot of things. I see it now for what it is, but at that time, as an 8, 9-year-old boy, I remember my mother, she worked hard, and she had a budget. And I remember being 9 years old, and I made such a fuss because I wanted me a Wilson ball glove like the other kids at school had. And I cried and pitched a fit when the ball glove came home, but it wasn't what I wanted. And I'm so ashamed of it now because, you know, she was doing the best she could. So I just want to honor my mother today, and I also want to leave a message for all you young boys and children online. If you're 9 years old and you don't get exactly what you want, don't be a jerk. Yeah, don't be a brat. Yeah, because one day you'll grow up and you'll look back and you'll say, Mom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for acting that way at the time because, you know, you were doing the best that you could and I was just being selfish. But anyway, I'd like to start this message with some jokes. And when I say jokes, basically this was a survey that was given to first grade school children, and they asked them some specific, they tell me. But anyway, so they asked them some questions. And a part of these questions here is, why did God make mothers? And one said, she's the only one who knows where the Scotch tape is. Mostly to clean house, another one said. To help us out of there when we're born. Now, that's an educated kid. All right. How did God make mothers? Use dirt just like the rest of us. Magic plus superpowers and a lot of string. And one said, God made moms just like he made me. He just used bigger parts. The question was, Of what ingredients are mothers made of? One said, God made mothers out of clouds and angel hair and everything nice in the world, but just a dab of mean. All right, and they had to get their start from a man's bone. Then they mostly use string, I think. And the last question was, why did God give you your mother and not some other mother? And one said, well, we're related. And another said, God knew she liked me more than those other mothers did. But anyway, just to lighten the heart as we press into our Mother's Day celebration, Proverbs 31 is the text that really is this the women to aspire to. And there's another text in the Bible that men need to read, and that's Job chapter 31. So men, if the women can read and aspire to Proverbs 31, but us men have to aspire to Job 31, and that is a benchmark that really is up there when you look at the integrity and who Job was. But it inspires me that Proverbs 31, before we embrace this, to think that Mary, the mother of Jesus, actually read these same words, these same texts. This was part of her training in life, and this is what she aspired to. So all those noble women that get used in Mother's Day sermons, this was some of their text of their learning that they reached for. But Proverbs 31 is it's an acrostic, verses 10 through 31, which is Hebrew poetry, where each sentence starts with a letter in the Hebrew alphabet and goes in succession. And I would love to be talented enough to be able to teach it in the beauty of that. But the thing of it is, when it's translated over into English, it loses its artistic form. And the best I can do is English. It's only the language I know. But it's an acrostic. But the setting is a happy, somewhat wealthy home. We look at some of the things, resources that are available to this lady. We can tell that she's a woman of means, and her home is somewhat wealthy. But it reveals her wisely, lovingly managing the things for her family. And God gives potential to all women. And that's what we look at here, is the potential that God places within all of our mothers and all of the ladies in our life. And there is, everywhere you find a successful man, and I'll get into a text after this, you're going to find a woman in his life that supported him, that spoke things into his life, that was there like an anchor, that pushed him forward. And sometimes it's the mother, and sometimes it's the grandmother. Sometimes it's just someone that loved you enough to be there. But we've all have to give recognition to those women in our lives that are there. As we push forward here with Proverbs 31, verse 1 says, who can find a virtuous wife? Her worth is far above rubies. And the Passion Bible says, who can find a wife like this one? She is a woman of strength and mighty valor. She's full of wealth and wisdom. Her price paid for her is greater than many jewels. I want to focus on that word virtue there for just a moment. And this is, you ladies, you'll appreciate this, because this word is used in the Old Testament in other contexts. And I think it is very fitting that whoever penned this proverb, and some say it's Solomon, is definitely part of the poetic literature of the Old Testament. But this word virtuous comes from the Hebrew word halai, Then this is the Old Testament Theological Word Book. I've got a definition here and also got your Strong's number up there, but that's virtuous is what we're looking at. The basic meaning of it is a noun, and it means strength from which follows an army, valor. You've heard of a soldier of valor and wealth. It's used 244 times. It's an individual designated seems to be an elite warrior, similar to a hero. Basically, it describes a soldier of valor that's on the battlefield that has proven themselves. So in the context of Proverbs chapter 31, what we're describing here is warrior women. And that's the reason I chose that picture. Warrior women, except you're not fighting with weapons of warfare. You're fighting spiritual battles every day for your family and for the people that you love around you. And I'll be honest with you, we men and in our families and stuff, you see things we don't. Most of us won't confess that. So, the things that were said today, soak it in, because we won't confess them tomorrow. But many times, we don't want directions when we drive. Just we'll figure it out. But many times there is these insights that you ladies bring to the table, that you bring to we men's life and to the family life, that you see things. And you understand things, and because you see things through a lens, a God-gifted lens that we don't have. That's the reason you're called helpmeet. You make up the places where us men, we fall short. And I told you earlier, you're the better half. But we need you, is my point. We need you. You complete us in so many ways. But this message is about you. It's not about us. But I'm just saying, there is so much that you ladies bring to the table when we get in circumstances of need. You bring wisdom to the table that's beyond us as men, that God gifts you with. And it's interesting, and I just feel inspired to say this. When God created Adam in his own image and his own likeness, the fullness of that image and that likeness was when Eve was in him. I know that's a little deep, but I'm just saying the man and his wife together as one flesh is a more complete image of God than man is all by himself. Okay, all right. Let's press forward because we got some ground to cover. Her worth and her works. Yeah, it says she is more precious than rubies. I always thought diamonds were the most precious stone upon the planet, but they're not. Carat for carat, a ruby is far, far more valuable than diamonds because they're more rare. They're more rare. And it says she is more valuable than rubies. She works in and outside of her home. She is tireless in hard work, arising early and working late into the night. The verses that it looks at there is verse 10. Verse 10 tells us who can find a capable wife. Her worth is more precious than rubies. But it also speaks to verse 17 through verse 19. Says she is energetic and strong, a hard worker. She watches for bargains. Well, that's my wife right there. She watches for bargains. Her lights burn late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread with her fingers twisting fiber. She's resourceful. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. The female in the home most of the time is the one who recognizes those needs of the people around us. They see the friend that's part of the group that needs something. And sometimes they'll see that they get it in a roundabout way that doesn't embarrass them. You know, I didn't grow up rich. I wouldn't grow up poor. I never went to bed hungry. I never had to worry about a place to stay. But I saw people and went to school with people that came to school in rags. That come to school, you know, you could tell they were doing the best they could, but they was poor. And and I thought I was poor. No, I wasn't poor. I was wealthy compared to some of the folks. And so is the case today. We look across our land, and most of the time those homeless people, the ones that are in genuine need, it'll be the ladies that recognizes that need before we men do. And I just want to thank y'all for helping us to be sensitive to the needs around us. But, God put us all together for a reason. We complete one another. There's a place and a position and a place for each and every one of us. But this is her worth. She is worth more than rubies, more precious than diamonds. And she is vigorous in her work because she gets up early and stays up late. And in the text here it says she's up before sunrise. And then it's well after dark before she goes to bed. So this is a woman that she completes her task. She wants to make sure all the boxes are checked. She wants to make sure that all the needs have been met. And you can always count on Mom. And just like that first joke there, she's the only one that knows where the Scotch tape is. And in my house, I many times, where's this, where's that? This morning I had to ask where the coffee filters were. I digress. But we want to just point these things out that the lady of the house or the woman of the house, there's inside information she has that we don't. She has the answers many times, whether us men want to admit it or not. And that's and I still have to say, when it comes to driving from one place to another, we know where we're going. We don't need help. But let's press on. Her wisdom, before I get in trouble, her wisdom and her witness. It says her wisdom, her words of instructions are wise and kind. Her wisdom is godly wisdom. I can still remember some of the godly wisdom my mother told me. And one of the things, I'll be honest with you, I grew up in a Christian home. I got took to church. So not only my mother's values spilled over into me, but also the values from the Sunday school classes, the summer vacation Bible schools. But more than one occasion, she would tell me, son, always let your conscience be your guide. It'll never lead you wrong. Because she knew that I knew right from wrong. She made sure of that. And that advice has carried me throughout my whole life. Because in those moments when I didn't know what to do, that little check in my conscience, the peace or the lack thereof, really fed me into hearing the voice of God, because God speaks to me through those same avenues by giving us peace or taking it away. But there's those seeds that mothers and grandmothers of wisdom that they place within us that teaches us where the lines are, the boundaries are, the rights and the wrongs, and everybody in the world don't have those little checks in the boxes. But mothers make sure that those boxes get checked, that they know right from wrong, and they know what is decent and upright. But her wisdom is godly wisdom that comes from on high. This godly wisdom, it says that we'll go down to verse 26. It says, when she speaks, her words are wise, and the kindness is a rule when she gives instructions. So she don't beat you down with her wisdom. She actually encourages you with it. Sometimes it ain't what you say, but it's how you say it. I remember hearing Zig Ziglar talk about a job that he did, and he kind of slouched it up. And he was talking about how his mother corrected him. And he says, she just had a way of doing something. She said, now, you did that job, but you didn't do it like my boy. My boy does a lot better job than that. So she corrected him to do a better job, but she also embraced him with the loving nurture of a mother doing it. You know, she encouraged him to do the work. If it's worth doing, do it right. That's the way I always heard it. You know, of course, you know, sometimes if you didn't do it right, I won't go there. That wasn't for Mom, though. But her wisdom is godly wisdom, and it's wisdom that builds. It's not wisdom that tears down. Criticism and hateful words can last. You know, it's been said that hateful words can leave wounds just the same as physical abuse. But her witness, and this is the one I want to get to, is her witness is her fellow citizens, and that she should be praised publicly. And that's what we want to do here today, is to praise her publicly. Verses 11 and 12 says her husband can trust her, and she will be greatly enrich his life. And that's the reason I say she's the better half. Yeah, she will not hinder him, but help him all of her life. She is committed in the oneness and the unity of the relationship. And that is the thing about marriage, is two need to act as one in decisions. And when you find marriages that fail, you find that two cannot walk together except they be agreed. And it's when they pull apart instead of pulling together. But verse 23 here says, her husband is well known, for he sits in the council of meeting and the other civic leaders. Every successful man has a good woman in his corner. And I know I said that before, but let that soak in. We can all look into our lives, and any measure of success that we have experienced, we had that somewhere in our lives. There was a woman that invested her love and her wisdom into us. So we owe that to you ladies today. Verse 26 says, when she speaks, her words are wise. It is the rule when she gives instruction. Verse 31 says, reward her for all that she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise. So go ahead and give her credit that is due, for she becomes a radiant woman, and all her loving works of righteousness deserve to be admired at the gateway and in every city. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Ladies, are you feeling like you're on the pedestal today? That's what we want to do. We just want to lift you up. And there's nothing like Mom. I'll be honest with you. Just nothing like Mom. The world today is so messed up that vision of what that should be is so blurred. And I'll be honest with you, laying the guilt where it belongs, a lot of it is the lack of man failing to do what he's supposed to. The fatherless homes across our land has laid the burden upon the shoulders of many homes where the woman has to be the father and the mother. And the last thing I want to do is discourage. I want to inspire. I want to be your cheerleader for those ladies that have the strength to bear that, to walk in that. But the treasure of her is everlasting and is beyond price. Nothing can compare to her in our natural lives. There's nothing closer to us than our mother. You know, I remember no matter how bad things got, that Mom was always in my corner. She was always on my side. You know, the whole world could hate me and want to, you know, call my name mud and spit, but Mom, she's always in my corner. Her fingerprints and her encouragement follows us our whole lifetime, and this is my last slide, and I know we want to get to the food, so this is going to be a short message today compared to some. But verse 30 here is her worship. Her worship, she fears and reverences God. A woman that feareth the Lord, that possesseth true religion, has that grace that harmonizes the soul, that purifies and refines all the tempers and passion. And she is that ornament of beauty, a meek and quiet mind, which in the sight of God is great price. She shall be praised. This is the lasting grace, the unfading beauty. She fears the Lord, she reverences the Lord, and of course the New Living Translation says, charm is deceptive and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will greatly be praised. Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds be publicly declared. Let us declare her praise. Thank you, ladies, and happy Mother's Day. I would like to at this time turn the service over to Jim.